everybody, welcome back. I've had a few of you comment that I always have everything so well prepared, and I've got my mise en place, which just means all my ingredients laid out usually. And is that how I normally cook? No, it's not. Well, when I was doing catering and working in a restaurant, yes, you have everything out so you can prepare and you can get everything done a little quicker as you go. But today I'm going to bring you into the kitchen. We can talk a little bit. I'm going to answer some of your questions, and I'm going to show you my favorite Southern meal, which is cornbread and pinto beans, fried potatoes, and fried pork chops. Now, last night I soaked my pinto beans overnight, just in plain water. First I sorted to make sure there was no bad beans in there or stones. There's sometimes a little stone will get in there, and that'll hurt when you bite down into that. After I soaked them overnight, this morning I rinsed them like 2 or 3 times, and I cheated today. I used the crock pot, which is a lot easier because I was working out in the yard instead of having the stove going all day and boiling the snot out of them, as my grandpa would say. The only thing you boil more than pinto beans, I think, is southern green beans. But I just had them in here. I put them in around 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning with 3 ham hocks. Let me take the lid off here and show you what we have to do. I'll move this over here out of the way. Let me get a bowl. Actually, I'll get a big plate. It'll be easier. So I'm going to take out the ham hocks. And this is a no editing. Here we go. Everything at once video. Let me see if I can get them out without them falling apart. As you can see, they have cooked down really well and pulled back. I wouldn't say really pulled back from the bone as much as it looks. There was a big chunk of meat there, and in my kitchen, if there's a big piece of ham hock meat there, I'm chewing on it. So I did get a little bit of the meat out of here already. Make sure you get any of the bones out that could fall apart as you're taking it out. I like to just dip down in there. If I get some beans in it, I get some beans in it. But putting the ham hocks in, if you guys haven't had pinto beans and cornbread, the only way to cook a good pot of beans is with smoked ham hocks. Or after Easter or Christmas, if you have a smoked ham, got that big ham bone left over, that's amazing too. Stick that in there and just let it cook down. All the flavors are going to come out of there. My beans are nice and tender. Looks like I'm going to have to add a little bit more water to them because they have soaked up all that good flavor. I may not. I may leave it like that. I like it a little bit thick, so I might leave it like that. Okay, so we're going to clean these off, and let's see. I'm going to cheat. I have my tongs over here that I might have been eating the meat off already. I'm just going to take the bones and discard them. Now, I grew up on pinto beans and cornbread. It was just like a normal meal. Most northern people have mashed potatoes and maybe pork chops or mashed potatoes and meatloaf. As a comfort meal, this was our comfort meal. Not to say pork chops aren't. We love our fried pork chops. Okay, that's all fat. That's all the bone, all the meat that was on that one. I'm just going to pull back this skin and fat. Get these big chunks of meat out. Let's break them up a little bit. I like to have some meat in there when I'm eating my beans. This one has a nice big piece of meat. Just take this meat, put it back in, and it will be delicious. Like I said, I grew up on this. My grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, 4 or 5 generations back. Actually, I was a 5th generation baby. I had my mom, and it was me, my mom, her parents, his parents, and my mama, that mom always talked about her parents. We called my great-grandmother Mama, and we called my great-great-grandmother Little Grandma, because she was about this tall. She was a little bitty thing. She was a firecracker though. And I do remember going to her cabin on the mountain. I think it was Bell County, Kentucky. I don't I couldn't find it if I tried right now because of course, obviously I haven't been there in forever. But I remember we had to park alongside the road. We had to walk a little bit through the grass and then jump over a creek and walk up the mountain to get to our cabin. Had no electricity, no indoor plumbing. I'll get a couple of you all crazied out, but I grew up in that. I thought that was normal. I mean, I know. And someone asked me, forget who it was, Cheryl, I think she asked, why I always say I'm Southern if I was born in Ohio. Well, yes, I was born in Ohio, but my mom and all of her family was born in Kentucky. And my dad's side of the family, well, my mom's side's from the Appalachian area in Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. My dad's side has roots in the Appalachian Mountains up in Pennsylvania and that area. So I got Appalachian in me all around, but I do identify more with the Southern roots because I love the Southern cooking. I grew up cooking with mom, cooking with grandma. Not a lot with my mama because I was kind of young, but I have all their recipes, and it's comfort food. A lot of people think they call it slave food or just poor hillbilly food. Well, maybe it was, but guess what? It's some delicious food. And to this day, I'd rather have this than a steak on the grill with a baked potato. This is amazing. Okay, I think I have picked through all the meat. I lied, there's some more right there. Got it all out. Mix that all in. Now, I did not season these this morning. All I did is put in the smoked ham hock, and I also put in a little bit of garlic. So I like garlic in mine. I like just a touch of it, not a whole lot. Get that shredded up. So this is where you can taste it for salt and pepper and see how it tastes. Hot. That just brings me back to my grandparents' house. I'd go up there and we'd have cornbread and beans a couple nights a week. I knew when Grandma made a big pot of pinto beans. And I was up there staying, we used to have pinto beans and cornbread for a couple days. Okay, so I'm gonna put this over on the counter. I'm not gonna put it in the trash can because it's really hot. I don't want it to melt the bag. So my pinto beans are ready again to be covered and let them simmer away. I'm going to take them and put them back here, plug them in so they're out of the way. This isn't a quick meal, as you can see. Those beans have been started last night, soaking and tenderizing. Now, those of you that saw some of my canning videos of me putting up pinto beans and canning them, you don't have to, once you've canned them, you don't have to, as Grandpa would say, boil the snot out of them all day long or cook the snot out of them because they're already cooked. So with those, all you're gonna do is put them in your pan, put in some ham hock, whatever seasoning you want, warm them back up, and you have instant pinto beans ready to go with your cornbread. Okay. I got 3 cast iron skillets here. This one, y'all know that's my cornbread skillet. I'm going to move it over here for a second and get some oil. Growing up, this meal couldn't be cooked without Crisco. And I do have a container over here. Don't use it a lot, except when I make this. I'll put that, a couple tablespoons in there. This is gonna go in the oven, and this is for the cornbread. And I'm gonna let it heat up as the oven preheats to about 400, 420. That's my hand off there. And then we're also going to be, some of you out there are probably having a little stroke seeing all this. But this is why I don't have this every night, because this is just maybe once a month. So this is going to be for my pork chops, and this is going to be for my fried potatoes. All right, I washed my potatoes off already, and I have them laying over here on a towel. but the towel absorbs some of the moisture because we don't want them wet when it's going into the skillet. So get me a knife, and we will put these back here for a little bit, and I'm going to get my dish rag. Now, since I'm not using my cutting board that has the rubber little feet on it, it's a good idea to take a wet towel, napkin even, put it underneath, holds it in place. This will not be scooping around like crazy for you. You're not going to cut yourself. Potatoes was another thing I grew up on. I can remember our garden in Wapakoneta, Ohio, that's where I grew up. We had 1.25 acres of land in town, our house, and I think Mom used about 1/4 acre of it, if not more, just for garden. Now you might wonder why I'm not using my mandolin. I don't want these all the exact same size. I want different sizes. So I just cut them like this, and then smaller ones I can cut just in half. Get some little different sizes in there. And turn on my burner. Get this all heated up and melted. Sheet already cut it in half. But yeah, we had a humongous garden. Mom grew green beans, potatoes, peas, carrots, radishes, tomatoes. The thing I can remember most is green beans. She used to give us a bushel basket and send me and my sister down to the garden to pick green beans before we could go play. And I remember my sister one time filled her basket about 3/4 full with grass and sticks and all that. And when we went up to show Mom that we did all of our work, somehow she switched that basket. And I got in trouble for doing it, and here was her. But we lived out of the garden. Mom canned green beans. My grandparents had apple trees. Our grandma would do applesauce, apple butter. Of course, all of her tomatoes. I mean, she's always done tons of tomatoes. I've got a picture I'll show you right here. This is my dog Brody at my mom's house, probably about 6 years ago, maybe more. And that was her tomato plants. He was walking through her garden. Now, if you guys want, you can slice these just like regular. I like cut them up like this. Get you a little bit more sides to brown up and crisp up. Okay, last one. It's a little bit different than having everything out and prepared for you, isn't it? Okay. And I always swing, whatever I'm cutting, when I get halfway through, I swing it around because it's easier to hold the larger side than it is this little side, and you lose track, and you lose a finger. So we're going to cut these up. My mom can make the best fried potatoes. I don't know how she does it. She can get them so crisp and not burnt. I can't. I don't know why. Okay. We're getting here. Need a little plate. And I'm just going to move these back here off of this cutting board because I like to put an onion in mine. Get an onion here and get it cleaned up. I remember growing up, our tomatoes were so sweet in the garden. I just get out there and pick them like an apple and just sit there and eat them. I actually used to sneak a salt shaker out to the garden and I'd eat it like that, just salt it and chow away on it. I don't recall Mom ever growing onions. I remember though she had sets that she used to put out, but I just don't remember having them, harvesting them as much as I do potatoes, green beans, and tomatoes. And peas. Don't forget peas. And these I'm just going to cut in half moons. Kind of thick because they're going to cook for a while. And then cut them in half. Alright, done with the knife. Okay. Woo! It's hot. Let me turn it down just a little bit. Let me pull these back on here. And do this without burning myself and splashing oil. That's going to cool the pan down immediately. But I still like to toss them around a little bit so they don't burn to the bottom. Just break up these onions a little bit. Always salt and pepper everything that you do. You add lots of pepper. And I'm just going to put these on about a medium. And just let them cook away. Okay, I'm going to just put this lid on. Put it on about 5, which is medium, and just let them simmer for a while. That'll help soften the potatoes, because some of them are kind of thick, and I want them to soften up so they don't all burn on the outside first. So next we're going to get a large cutting board. You all know I like to use my big cutting board for meats. Put my rag deck down. There we go. I have a pork loin that I'm going to use for my pork chops today. Normally I just get thin cut pork chops and I use that, but I looked in my freezer. I had 4 pork shoulders, 2 pork loins, and I don't want to go back. I'm here in Florida during hurricane season. You can lose power. Even a thunderstorm you lose power, and I don't want to lose all this meat. I didn't realize I had all that out there. I'm going to take this over to the sink and open it up because there's a lot of juices in here, and I'll be right back. Okay, our pork loin. Let me wash my hands. I don't know how this video is going to be, how it turns out, but we're just going to go. So smells good already. Okay, I rinsed off and washed my knife that I did my potatoes. I can go from vegetable to meat, not a problem, but from meat to vegetable, no, this would have to be cleaned real well with soap and water. So I'm just going to cut this into small pork chop size. And I like, when I fry my pork chops for this, I like them kind of thin. That way they're juicy, they're cooked through real quick, and not sitting there all day long cooking and getting tough. Some of this fat off. If y'all wonder why I throw it, there's a trash can right here. I'm not throwing it on the floor. What do we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 7 of them. Why not? Okay, the rest of this is going to be with the other 4 pork shoulders. Y'all gonna see in the next, well, maybe not the next video, but coming up you're gonna see that one. So I'm just gonna set this aside. I'm gonna get a plate for my pork chops. There we go. Clean up my knife. Check on the potatoes. Now, just before these are done, I'll put a little garlic in there. Actually, you know what? I'll put some garlic powder and onion powder now. Can't see, but I got all my seasonings down here. A little drawer. Here's garlic powder and here's my onion powder. They are looking good. All right, oven's just about up to heat, so let's do the cornbread. Let me get my cornmeal. Now literally, just use a big wooden spoon, like Grandma and Grandpa used to do. That's not cornmeal, that's sugar. That ain't going with my cornbread. My grandpa would roll over in his grave if he thought I put sugar in cornbread. That does not happen. Okay, so I'm going to use probably 3 big scoops of cornmeal. My grandpa taught me how to make this. Grandpa Cecil, Mom's dad. And first time I made it, I started scooping all this flour in. You know, made me put it back out. He said, boy, we're not making flour bread, we're making cornbread. So we had to take that out and start over because you don't put as much flour in as you do cornmeal. I really need to take this out of the bag, but just have it. So I got 3 of those. I'll put maybe 1.5 scoops of flour in there. And I just melted a 1/2 stick of butter. And I'm just going to put that in here too. I put 2 eggs. Mix together with a small spoon. Mash up those eggs. And now, what makes our buttermilk cornbread is buttermilk. And I've got a recipe on my website, craigs-kitchen.com. I'll put that down there. The exact measurements for all this. I don't exact measure, as you can see. I just kind of, except for the eggs and the butter, the milk and the flour and the cornmeal, I'm just eyeing it. That's how I cook. I love the smell of buttermilk. Taste of it, to drink, I can't do that. My Grandpa Cecil, Mom's dad, he could sit down and drink a thing of buttermilk. He would take his cornbread at night, and that'd be a snack for him. Instead of having a bowl of ice cream, he'd just get a big old jar or glass of buttermilk, crumble up some cornbread in it. Sometimes that was his dinner. He just loved it. I did make a mistake one time. I don't know if I told you guys this. I have to buy the smaller containers now because I'll make iced coffee in the morning for myself to take to work. And I got it real fast one morning, got everything going, put in my milk, got down halfway to work, decided to take a drink, and oh my gosh, I about to spit it out. It was buttermilk I put in there instead of regular milk. Buttermilk and coffee's bad, real bad. Okay. That looks good. Want it just so it's not wet and real runny. I always put a pinch of salt in. This brings out the flavor. Salt intensifies the flavors of everything, especially bread. All right. Put this away. Those down because they're cooking a lot faster than I thought they would. Let's see how my skillet looks. Looks like everything's melted. Now, as I showed you, I put the pan in already, so it's heating up. It's heating up as the oven heats up because I want that grease nice and hot. Get it out here. I want that grease nice and hot because it's going to start frying the cornbread already. Make sure it's hot enough. Just put a drop in there. Yep. Start sizzling. Now, honestly, I could have had that a little bit hotter. It's not sizzling as much as I like it. It's sizzling, but it will work. There we go. Okay, now I decided to, while this is cooking, we got a little time here, because I'm not going to start the pork chops yet, because I got 20 minutes. Thought I'd show you some pictures. I mentioned earlier that I'm a fifth generation baby. This is the picture here. This picture is starting on the left, me and mom. And then beside her is her dad, Cecil, my grandpa. Beside grandpa is his dad, which is my great grandpa. Next to him, who I told you, little grandma. We called her little grandma. That's Rufus and little grandma. And then beside little grandma is mama, that mom always talks about and I talk about. That's my dad, or my grandfather, Cecil, beside my mom. That's his mother. So that's the fifth generation. Here's a picture of my mama in the kitchen cooking. Love this. I only have 2 or 3 pictures of her, and this is one of her in the kitchen. I also have this one of little grandma, and I think it was her birthday. I'm thinking 90s, not sure what year and how old. I'd have to look that up. But this was up in her cabin that we all went up to and seen. They lived in, I think actually, believe it or not, I always have, I told you guys about my mama, Bessie Potter. She wrote, how many pages here? 37 pages. One of her sons asked her, my great uncle, asked her to write about herself growing up. This is all in her handwriting. Rufus and Julie are her parents. Some of the things in here that she wrote, this is one of her cooking. I remember when scrambling eggs were so good, goose, duck, and hen eggs scrambled together in a big bowl, in a big old pan full of ham and also gravy. You never heard of cholesterol until a few years ago. Now it's killing people. They sure were different back then. I think what the problem is back then they didn't sit around and do nothing. They may have ate all this cholesterol, but they were working, they were walking everywhere, they were out and doing things. Nowadays people just don't get off the couch. Let's see some more stuff. I don't mind sharing this with you. Things sure were different then. You walked 5 or more miles to school and church, and some kids couldn't walk that far. My parents rode a horseback and left the kids home with the older ones. They just had church once a month, because back then a lot of times the preacher would travel around to the different churches because they didn't have one for every church. So I guess that was in this instance that they only had church once a month, and it was, she said, on the last Sunday of the month, 4th Sunday of the month, we went to the Primitive Baptist Church on Brownies Creek called Hardshell Baptist. Mama became a member in 1918. That was their home church as long as they lived. Papa, which is Rufus, my great-grandpa you saw in that picture, became a member in 1922, and he was ordained to the office of deacon October 28, 1928. He loved his church, and I can see him now sitting there, his head tilted a little to the right, tears running down his cheeks. My dad was one of the best. I love these stories. I'll share it one of these days. I'm going to type this all up because it is kind of hard to read some of the handwriting, but I'll type it all up and I'll share it with everybody. I like just telling little stories out of there. Times were so different back then. So different. And these potatoes are just calling my name over here. Let me get a taste here. Amazing. All right, I'm gonna grab something. All right, so we still got 16 minutes. I'm gonna take a break, give me some iced tea, and I'm back in a few minutes and we'll get the pork chops started. So see you then. Okay, let's get this started at about 7, get that a little bit melted down. Start seasoning some of these. I've used my left hand because I can't season with them right. Yeah. Salt and pepper. Spread these out. Just get them all. Could have used a bigger plate, I guess, but I didn't. This is real-time cooking, folks. Nothing fancy. All that nice and done. I'll get a little garlic powder for the chops. These are about done. I don't think I'm gonna need this. I need it for the cornbread though. Cornbread's looking good. If you notice, ain't nothing happening here with that cast iron. This is my mom's pan. That's what I like to fry things in. The one in the oven for the cornbread and the biscuits, that's Mama's. And this big one here, it's actually a Paula Deen pan that my mom got for me. So then I like to use it for my taters. Right. Get that finished. Okay. Ooh, okay, that's melted down. And just season these a little bit with garlic powder. Now if you want, you can lightly season these with some flour. I've done that. Just a little crispy coating on it. Look at that sizzle when I put it in. I'm going to get them all in the pan. Just do some batches. And we're going to season this side now. Because I'll put the seasoned side down. Done. Look at that. I'm sure some of you who are not Southern or don't have Southern roots are probably panicking like Grandma's or Mama said in her book about all the cholesterol. There's a lot of fat going on here. Frying everything. Even fat in my cornbread. That's what makes it good, but that's what makes us only have it every so often. This is not a meal we're going to have every day. Let me get a plate for those. These are pretty well done. I just got them on low, keeping warm. Got about 5 minutes left on the cornbread. Let me get a tray to put the cornbread, or a cooling rack. Cornbread on there. Now these are thin. They're going to cook quickly. You don't want to overcook them. This pan is also good for fried chicken. You put the oil up to about there. My mom used to make the best fried chicken. She's making a skillet this size and just stand there turning it nonstop. And whatever we didn't eat went on the counter, even at Grandma's house, went on the counter in a bowl. And all day long we just grab a whole piece of chicken. Another one in there. Okay, I emptied that out and I washed it a little bit with water, no soap. And I'm going to put a little salt in there because there's some bits that stuck. This is how I clean my cast iron. And I'm doing it while it's hot. So I'm waiting for the cornbread to get done. I just get a roll of paper towels. And the pieces that are stuck, I'm just getting up with the salt because that's going to be an abrasive to help get it up. Nice and clean. I still have my seasoning on here. Let me rinse this out. Put it over here on the pan. Get it hot. Try to get all the water off you can. You're going to put it on the stove to warm it up. There we go. Starting to warm up already. And there's my clean pan. I'm just going to let that sit on that burner and warm up just a little bit, just to dry off any extra water. One thing is you get a lot of splatter when you're frying all these potatoes and pork chops. I hate that. Keep these warm. How I keep mine warm. Okay. Oops, that is still very hot. As you can see, nice and clean, not wet, still got shine. Good. Has like 10 seconds left, I'm just turning it off. Let me get that out. There you go, nice cornbread. I'm gonna move these over here out of the way so you can see if your cornbread pan is seasoned, your cast iron, that thing's heavy. It should slide right out like that. Nice clean pan. Once again, just wipe it out with a paper towel. If there's anything down in there, just put some salt and scrub it out. Let me set this out of the way. Turn off the oven. So we got our cornbread. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to get our beans. They're all done over here. Butter, because we're going to need some butter. Oh, those smell good. Look at the steam coming off this. All right, and there's our pork chops. Now I'm going to show you how I do it. I just get a big bowl, burn my little fingers off with this cornbread. Told you. Just put some of that broke down into the bottom of the bowl without burning your fingers off. I'm going to put some beans over this. I'm going to scoop some potatoes on the side. Grab a pork chop. And that is my southern dinner. Couldn't be any better. Y'all give this a try. I'll put individual recipes for each one of these down below. Also my website, riggs-kitchen.com. You guys are going to love this. Talk to you again soon. Love you all. God bless.